Grab a snack and a drink, everyone, because this one is going to be a long one. Hi everyone, my name is Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, and for 2024, I put a goal on my reading goals list to finish series. I even did a random number generator to determine how many series I should finish, and it gave me 28. To know how I did at the end of the year, I think I need a list of my series, and I figured I would let you know what series I'm currently in the middle of, how many books I have left in each one, etc., etc. As of the time of filming this video, I am currently reading 46 series. That is a lot. There's a lot of reasons for this. Content creation and reading series is difficult because there's a lot of things I can't say after the first book. So it's hard to vlog them, it's hard to incorporate them, and also I just don't prioritize them. So this year it's a goal, we're gonna finish 28 of these throughout the year. Quite a few of these, I only have one book left to finish, some 2, some 3, some in the double digits because the series are very long. So let's dive in and we'll go through what I got here. Let's start with the series that I only have one book left to finish, and there are 18 of those. So I can almost do most of my 28 by just finishing these 18 series. 18 books and 18 series. So these are ones that I'm definitely going to be really looking at over the next 12 months because it's one book, one and done, one and dusted. So the first series is the Bright Fall series. This series is one that I started last year. I read the first 2 books in 2023, and I still need to read Iris Kelly Doesn't Date. In the first book, we follow Delilah Green and Claire. In the second book, we follow Astrid Parker and Jordan, and Astrid is the stepsister of Delilah from the first book, and also Claire's best friend. And in the last book, we follow Iris, and since I haven't read it, I don't know who the love interest is, but we follow Iris, who is also Astrid and Claire's best friend. So it's a little friend group, and we follow their different romances throughout the series. Delilah, I really liked, but I was hesitant to continue because I didn't really love Astrid in the first book. But Astrid's book actually ended up being my favorite of the 2 books that I've read, and I actually gave it 5 stars. So I really do need to read Iris and complete this trilogy. The Cassidy Blake trilogy is by V.E. Schwab, and this is a trilogy following Cassidy Blake. Cassidy almost died. She had a run-in with death, almost drowned. A ghost, Jacob, pulls her out of the water and saves her life. Now that she's had a touch of death, she can now cross over the veil into the veil between worlds and see ghosts and banish ghosts to the other side. V.E. Schwab and I have a mixed past. This is really the only thing that I've really loved from V.E. Schwab. I do like V.E. Schwab's middle grade. I only read the second book closer to the end of 2023, so I'm newly near the end of this series, but it's a quick one. It's a middle grade. I could knock this out in an afternoon. This one's definitely happening as one of my 28. The Curse Breaker series, I'm a bit nervous about to finish because I've heard horrible things about the third book, which is probably why I haven't picked it up. However, I know a lot of people didn't love the second book, and I actually liked the second book in this series. I had to kind of think of it as not a retelling because the first one is definitely a Beauty and the Beast retelling. The second one, we start to delve into this world and into side characters that don't really fit those parameters. But I did like the second book, but I know the third book is really not liked by most people. So it's making it hard to pick this up. But I am a completionist, so I do want to try the book for myself. There have been times where I'm the odd one out, where everyone hates the book and I love it. So I do want to give it a try, but I'm a little bit nervous. The Death Cast books, I actually have the prequel book to read. That is the only other book in the series, and I'm really interested in this. I read the first book last year, really enjoyed it, and I want to know more about this Death Cast system. It is basically a system that can tell you the day that you're going to die. You get a call between midnight and 3 a.m. telling you it's the day that you're going to die, and it kind of gives you the advanced warning to live the day how you want to say goodbye to who you want to say goodbye to, etc., etc. And the system wasn't really explained much in the first book, how it came about, how it's possible. And I really want to know more, and I'm assuming this prequel will let me know because it is following the first person who ever got a phone call. The Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, I obviously know this is part of a much larger series of books, but this is a trilogy, and then there's multiple subsequent trilogies that are attached in the same world. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue past the Farseer trilogy. I liked the first one. The second one was just okay. So I'm not going to really decide if I want to continue with Robin Hobb until I read the third book. We'll see how it goes this year, and then I can decide if I want to continue on to Live Ships. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I have one book left, and I know this is happening this year 100% because there is a read-along happening here on YouTube. I will put all the info for that down below and who is organizing it, etc., etc. But I want to join up with them for the last book, and that's when I'll be reading it. So probably they're reading that in May, I think. Hot and Hammered is a Tessa Bailey series. I do love Tessa Bailey. It's like just a fun time. I come to Tessa Bailey for a good time. Usually I get it. It's hit or miss sometimes, but usually. The first book in this series was a 5-star for me. The second was a 3. So we'll see how the last one comes about. But in the first book, we have brothers, best friends romance with the brother's little sister. And in the second book, we follow her friend in her second chance romance in her marriage with a marriage on the rocks situation. In the third book, we follow the sister of our main character in the first book. They kind of form a friendship in the first book, the 3 women that we follow in the different books, and we follow their romances. We definitely met a romantic interest for this third book in the second book, and I'm interested in this romance. I think I'm going to like it. I do need to get to this year. The Kingkiller Chronicles, I technically only have one left because the rest of this series has never been released. We'll see what happens, but I have not gotten to this because it is a 48-hour audiobook.
Oh, bother. How long will that take?
Days, weeks, months. Who knows?
It's long. This is the second book in the Name of the Wind trilogy. Is it supposed to be a trilogy? I don't even know how many books are supposed to be in this series. I don't know if it will ever be completed, but I do want to read the second book and kind of be caught up if it ever is continued. Who knows? Legend Born by Tracy Deonn, I started last year. I only have one book to get caught up in this series. It's obviously not done, but the next book is not coming out until sometime in 2025. So I can at least get caught up this year with Bloodmarked. This is a King Arthur retelling. It's so good. I had a really great time with the first book, and I really want to take my time with the second. I think I would have enjoyed the first book more had I not rushed it for a readathon. But for this one, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to really sit down and immerse myself in this story. Little Thieves, I read this year because Margaret wanted me to read it, and I'm so glad Margaret wanted me to read it because it was 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. Read it during the Amazing Readathon. I still need to read Painted Devils, and I know Margaret loves Painted Devils just as much as Little Thieves, so I have very high hopes for this sequel. And I read the first book in like a day and a half, and it was 500 pages. So even though this is a chunky sequel, I think I'm going to really enjoy going into it. The Meant to Be series, if I don't get caught up on this early in the year, I will actually have 2 books to read because the 4th book is coming out next year. It's written by Christina Lauren, the 4th book. This is a series of contemporary romance fairy tale retellings. Each book is written by a different author. I still need to read Kiss the Girl. I have the arc of this book and I still haven't read it. I need to get on that. It is a Little Mermaid retelling. And also the 4th book is coming out next year, so I may have to read 2 books to finish this series. But it is a retelling series, so I'm totally okay to read both books next year and actually be officially caught up in this. I don't know if there's going to be a 5th book, but I might even be done because I'm not sure how many books are going to be in this series. The Precious Stone series is a translated series that I started, I believe, last year as well. A lot of these ones I've started last year. And to be honest, I cannot think of the main character's name. It has left me. I will remember as soon as I pick up the book, but she finds out that she is the inheritor of their family's magic. Every generation, one of the girls in her family is able to travel back in time with this secret society that kind of travels back through history. It's kind of a complex magic system. But anyway, she finds out that she has this power. And unfortunately, they did not think she was going to be the one to get it. They thought her cousin was going to be the one to get it. So they prepared her cousin, taught her everything she needed to know. She's ready. She doesn't inherit the magic. And now our main character is having to play catch up. There's a lot of politics within the secret society that she's having to figure out and find out who she agrees with, who is in the right, who is in the wrong, and she's really trying to find her footing. I have 1 book left, and I'm going to find out who is right, who is wrong, what is happening with this time travel situation. They're trying to kind of complete a larger project that's been in the works for centuries with many different time travelers, and I'm excited to see kind of how this series wraps up. Ravenspire is another series that is a retelling series. You'll see quite a few of those on this list, to be honest. This follows a different set of fairy tales in each one. They can be read as standalones, but you do see kind of glimpses and cameos from previous books in each book. So you will kind of know like who got together. Anyway, the first book is a Snow White retelling. The second one is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. The third one is a Prince and the Pauper retelling. And the fourth one is Cinderella. That is the only one that I have left. I need to read this book, Bloodspell. I just recently hauled it at the end of last year. I have really enjoyed my time with this series. The first one is still my favorite. It has dragons, so that's probably a big reason why it's my favorite. But it was definitely my favorite of the three stories, although I've loved all three. And we'll see how this Cinderella retelling kind of shakes out in the order of my favorites when I get to it. Supernatural Investigations is the Amari and the Night Brothers series. I actually have plans to read this in 2 weeks as part of TBR-a-thon, so I will be caught up in this series pretty early in January. This obviously follows Amari. Her brother has gone missing, and when she starts to investigate what happened to her brother, she finds out he is part of this secret society, and she ends up enrolling in the secret society, and it's kind of got your dark academia, magical school vibes. We love a magical school here, and I'm excited to see what Amari gets up to in book 2. Book 3 is announced. It's announced for 2024, so I will be able to get caught up and then potentially finish the third book as well. However, I don't know if that date is set in stone. There's no cover. There's really no release information. So I'm going to count this as only need to read the one book. And if the third book does come out, I'll add that to the list as well. The Jaipur series is the series for the henna artist. I buddy read this series with Kelsey, and we need to buddy read the last book, and I think we're going to buddy read it in February. The last book in this series follows the sister of our main character in the first book, the henna artist. We kind of follow different people while still staying connected to our main character from the first book in each book. In the second book, we follow her assistant, and in the third book, we're going to follow her sister now that she is in Paris and being a perfumer. The Roots of Chaos is the series of Priory of the Orange Tree. I loved Priory. I gave it 4 stars. I had a really good time with it. It has dragons, and now it has a prequel, A Day of Fallen Night. Since this is a prequel, I actually really don't know what this follows other than like it happens about 1,000 years prior to the events of Priory of the Orange Tree. I've heard mixed things about this book. I'm hoping to love it as much as I like Priory, but who knows? To Sleep Into a Sea of Stars was a 5-star read for me. Absolutely loved it. And now it has a prequel, and the prequel is actually very small. Fractal Noise compared to Sleep in a Sea of Stars is teeny, teeny, tiny. It's like 300 pages. The original book was like 600. Again, since it's a prequel, I don't really know what it follows, but it's on the list for this year for sure. And the last book that I only have one book left is the Vicious Lost Boys series. This is a dark romance retelling of Peter Pan. I really enjoyed The Never King, which is the first book, 5 stars, and they've slowly not been as good since. I've just gone down 1-star rating every book. So 5, 4, 3. I'm hoping this is not a 2. But I do just want to finish the series. It's the last one, so I might as well just finish it out. So I have 10 books that only have 2 books left in the series to read. So let's jump into those and get into what those are. The first one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Now, I have read the first 2 books in this trilogy, which you would think, Brittany, doesn't that mean you only have 1 book left? No, there is a prequel novella that just came out last year, I believe. So I want to read both books. So I have the last in the original trilogy and the prequel. I think everyone knows what A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is about, so I'm not going to go into it too much. I 5-starred the first book, gave the second 3 stars, so I'm a little concerned about book 3 because, again, this is similar to The Curse Breakers where most people do not like book 3. But I am going to give it a try and finish the series because, again, I'm a completionist. The Gentleman Bastards and the Lies of Locke Lamora. I struggled at the first 100 pages of this book, but then I ended up loving it once I settled into the world and who everyone was. It's very much a master of disguise situation. He's a thief, but he's like the best thief. And he has so much ingenuity around how he kind of steals from people. And yes, he's super morally gray, but we kind of love Locke Lamora. And it ends with a lot of things happening. And it was very hard to read as a person who loves these characters. So I need to go and find out what happens in book 2 and book 3. There is supposed to be more books in this series, but again, I don't know if this series will ever be finished. This seems to be a trend in fantasy lately that some of these books never finish, but anyway, I at least want to read the ones that are out. Love Light Farms, I have 2 books left in. I loved the first book in this series, and I did not love book number 2. There was so much miscommunication in book number 2. This is a contemporary romance series that follows various people who work on a Christmas tree farm. I own book 3, so I am going to give that a try. And book 4, I believe, comes out sometime in 2024, or it may already be out, but I think it comes out in 2024. I don't know if I'm actually going to read the 4th book. It will really depend on how I feel about book 3. But if I do decide to finish, I do have 2 books to read. So it may be 1, it may be 2 to finish this one. We'll kind of see how it goes. I started the Lunar Chronicles during Get a Clue, and I have 2 more books left, so I need to read Cress and Winter. I really did like this science fiction fairy tale retellings of these fairy tales, and I need to finish this off. I was very slow to get to this series. It's a very beloved series. It took me a long time. I've been sleeping on it for a while, and now I need to finish it. The Nowhere series by Nancy Bush. I have 2 books left in this. This is like a crime, thriller, procedural series. It's closer to a thriller series, really, but we follow different crimes that these detectives are investigating. And a lot of times the crimes are kind of like linked to the detectives and like their families or their people around them. So it is like hitting close to home. That kind of is what makes it thrillery. I don't have the last 2 books in this series to read though. I actually read book 4 first and then went back and started to work my way through the series. But these are really fast reads and the audiobooks are on script, so I can knock these out pretty quickly. Shadow and Bone. I have 2 books left to read in this series, and the only reason I'm really reading Shadow and Bone is because I really want to read Six of Crows. I did not love the first book as much as I loved things that Leigh Bardugo have written later, such as Ninth House and Hellbent. And I do know that I can read Six of Crows without reading Shadow and Bone, but I don't know. I need to finish Shadow and Bone first for my own personal preferences. So thankfully, the audiobooks did go on sale on Audible, so I got them for $5, and I will probably just listen to these sometime throughout the year. The Aurelian Cycle. This is Fireborn. I really love Fireborn, gave it 5 stars. For me, this was very similar to Fourth Wing. However, I liked it significantly better. It was more political than fantasy romance, and I feel like the writing was better. So if you liked Fourth Wing, you might actually really like this too, because the tropes are very similar in a lot of ways. I still have the other 2 books in this trilogy to get to, and since I 5-starred the first, I'm highly anticipating the rest of this series. The Extraordinary Adventures of the Athena Club follows some of our Gothic literature's villains' daughters. We have the daughter of Dr. Moreau. We have the daughter of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There's a whole host of them, and they get together and start this club to kind of stop their fathers from doing various things, and they start being detectives with Sherlock Holmes and Watson. I really enjoyed the first book. The reason I haven't continued is they get very, very chunky after the first book. I mean, like 700-800 pages. It kind of has a book within a book concept where someone is telling the story after the fact and other characters will like butt in and be like, no, this is actually what happens. And I really did like that concept and how it was done in this book. And I do really like how it's attached to classic literature, but they get chunky. The Guild is a Why Choose romance that I started reading during 72 Hours in the Smut Den. I don't really know much about the subsequent books, but in this we follow kind of a privatized spy. She goes undercover with this drug dealer and starts to get smutty with the drug dealer, but then her partner, who is also a guy, comes and like rescues her, and he's the other part of this Why Choose romance. Then we have The Marriage Game, which is a contemporary romance series of books, and I feel like all of our characters are part of the family of our first female protagonist, but don't quote me on that. I actually don't really know how these are connected. The first one is really funny as we see our main female character go on a bunch of blind dates for her arranged marriage. Her father has picked all these men and she's going to meet them and see if she likes them. He ends up in the hospital, so the person who's renting the same office space that she is goes with her to the dates, and obviously they start to have a romance. It's kind of a rivals to lovers situation, and the dates were really, really funny. I have 5 series that I only have 3 books left to read in, so we're starting to get a little bit chunkier in what I have to read to complete these series. So I don't know how many of these will be part of the 28 that I finish, but you never know. Some of them may be. I know one of them that definitely will be because it's already come up on Timmy's TBR for January. And that is Three Dark Crowns by Kendar Blake. This is a fantasy romance quartet that follows three triplets. They are split up at birth and each one of them has a different magic system. One is a poisoner, one's an elementalist, one's a naturalist. And when they are 16, they are brought back together to fight to the death to see who is the heir to the kingdom. This one, I'm already reading book 2. I'm actually probably going to start it today. And I kind of plan on just keep going while I'm back into the world. A Trial of Sorcerers by Elise Kova, I read for Rise from Rise Reading Corners book club at the end of last year. I ended up giving it 5 stars. I really like this book. I had a really great time with it. It is one of the few fantasy romances that I actually like. I'm really going to try and figure out this year what in fantasy romance I like because I want to be a fanro girly. I just need to figure out what I like. And this is a series that really worked for me. I really liked the magic system in this series. That's what really stood out to me a lot. And I want to continue. And I know there are more series that are based in this world and are kind of spin-off series. So after I finish this one, I may go and read those. The Kakanian series is a alien romance series. I know I'm going to finish it this year because it's part of a read along that I'm doing with a host of other booktubers. And if you've been around this channel at all, you've heard me talk quite a bit about it because we're reading one a month until the end of the series. We have 3 left, so we should finish, I'm assuming, in March or April, because I do think there might be a novella that we're also reading, so I might actually have 4 books in this series to read. Anyway, it's an alien romance series. I'm going to finish it next year, and it's on this list. The Fox Family series is a series that I ended up picking up during Stuff Your Kindle Day. I loved the first book, and I definitely want to continue. Each book follows one of the sisters, and also there is one brother that I think we eventually, get to, and a romance with them. So they're more companion contemporary romances following like each individual sister or brother and their romance. But they do own kind of like this cabins area in this small town. We follow the original sister who runs this with the only brother. The other sisters don't really live in this town, but I'm assuming they're going to come back and meet people or what have you in the following books. We definitely set up the romance for the second book with Piper and also our male protagonist's best friend, Oliver? In the first book. So I'm excited to continue this year. The Maura Quinn series is a Mafia Why Choose romance. I picked this up sheerly on the fact that Ashley Rostek wrote it. I finished the Witsec series and I needed to read more Ashley Rostek. For The Simple Wild, I actually have all the books on my Kindle because they actually were on sale, I think, for Canada Day because the author is Canadian, to get them for limited time only as part of Kindle Unlimited. So I downloaded them as part of Kindle Unlimited and I have not returned them because once I return them, they're no longer on Kindle Unlimited. So I actually really need to read this year so that I can have my Kindle Unlimited spaces back. We follow, I think our main character's name is Cassie. But anyway, we follow our female protagonist. She moved away from Alaska when she was 2 with her mother. She lives in Toronto. She hasn't seen her father since she was 2 years old. She hasn't spoken to him since she was 7. She finds out her father has cancer and she takes this as a time to go and reconnect with her father. She flies to Alaska and she falls in love with one of the Alaska pilots that works for her father. And we kind of see their romance and also her kind of reconnecting with her father in the first book. We continue to follow this character into the second, third, and fourth book, as far as I know, and also the other side characters that we meet in the first book. It's not like a different romance per each book. So I'm excited to kind of find out what happens because I think there's going to be some difficulty with this romance because I don't know if she's necessarily going to want to stay in Alaska. And I don't know if he's going to want to move away from Alaska. I don't know how that's going to go. I have 4 series with 4 books left to finish. The first one is the Campus Player series. Again, I got the first book for Stuff Your Kindle Day. Really did enjoy it. It is a set of companion novels that are each sports romances. I believe they're all set at the same college. So you kind of meet the different players as we go through the series. In the first book, we have the coach's daughter and we have his star player. I really had a great time with this sports romance. It was so good, so fun. It's a football romance. I'm starting to realize I really do love sports romance, so I'm hoping to get to these sooner rather than later. Next, we have From Blood and Ash. Realistically, I should not have this many books left. I should have already finished Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, but I haven't. It was on Timmy's TBR in December. I thought I'd finish it, so I didn't actually put it in the Timmy's TBR as a rollover, but I didn't, so it did technically roll into January. That's okay. I should be able to get to it in January. I'm sure most people know what From Blood and Ash is about already, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but it is a fantasy romance series. And I found the first book fun and really easy to read and really, really digestible, but very, very predictable. However, I think we're going to dive more into the plot as we go through the subsequent books. So I'm hoping to kind of find those less predictable, but still have that really easy writing style and still be really, really easy to consume. The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory is another set of contemporary romance companion novels. I've read the first 2. There is 4 more, and they are closed doors, so keep that in mind if that's something that you don't like. I actually really liked the first book. The second one was just okay. So we'll see how I go through the rest of this. This is another one where I may not complete the entire series. We'll see how I like it as I go along. Wilder Adventures was my 10th best book of the year. It was in my best books of 2023 video, so you should know about it. And I really love this book, but for some reason I haven't continued with the series yet. I need to do this because I freaking loved the first book. Potentially the reason behind why I haven't continued is I do have to physically read these. And more often I'm reaching for audiobooks just because I'm a parent, I'm busy, I need to kind of be able to listen while I do other things. But also when I do sit down to read, I really do like to immersion read for various reasons. I enjoy it more. I feel like it's a more immersive experience. Makes sense, immersive reading, but also it helps with my headaches. I get really bad headaches. So when I am not having to physically read completely with my eyes, I get less migraines. I've noticed a big dip in my migraines since I've started to do immersive reading. So I'm less likely to pick up a book that I have to physically read completely. But I love this first book so much that I will gladly power through. We have 2 series with 5 books left. The first one is the Brutal Birthright series. This is Sophie Lark's Mafia romance series. That's what it is. It's a dark romance, mafia romance. I gave the first book in this series 4 stars. It's the only one that I've read to date. And it's my favorite Sophie Lark book that I've read to date. I've tried her serial killer romance. It was just okay for me. And I ended up DNFing Anastasia. So I think the Brutal Birthright series is just where Sophie Lark works the best for me. Red Rising, as part of my year of sci-fi, I really do hope to get to some of this series this year. We follow a group of people on a terraformed Mars, and it is very similar to kind of like a Hunger Games, but make it sci-fi and make it a bit more gruesome. But I definitely want to continue, and I have 5 books out because a new book just came out. But since I want to read more sci-fi this year, this one is definitely perfect. I have 6 books left in the Temperance Brennan series. This is a series that the TV show Bones was based off of. I loved the TV show, but when I found out that the TV show had books that it was based off of, I decided to pick them up, and this is actually what started my love of reading again. I was not reading before I picked up these books several years ago. So are they perfect? No. Are they exactly what my reading tastes are today? No. But they kind of have a nostalgia factor for me because they started me down this road of reading again. I read a lot when I was a teenager and a child, but I hadn't read a lot as an adult. So I'm glad that I picked these books up and it started me down this journey. I have 7 books left in the Wayward Children series. However, I think I'm going to restart from the first book and binge them all back to back to back. I think I'm missing the connections by reading them so far apart, and they're so tiny that I can easily binge the entire series over a week or a couple of weeks. So I think I'm going to do that this year at some point and maybe make that a video or a challenge or something around reading all the books. Ice Planet Barbarians, you know, I love my blue aliens. I read them every month on here with Leandra, but we have 8 left. We have 8 books left. So we will be done later this year, Leandra and I. So I definitely will finish this year because I already know that I'm reading them every second month with Leandra. We were supposed to read them in January, but we got very, very busy with TBR-a-thon. Rightfully so. Amazing readathon. But it was just not possible to get an entire day of Ice Planet in as well. So we are actually going to be rejoining everyone with Ice Planet in February. So keep an eye out for that. The last 3 series on this list, I have double digits to finish. So I really doubt any of these will be finished this year, but I could possibly put a little dent in them. The first one is 14 books left in the Armin Gamache series, which is by Louise Penny. This is a Canadian murder mystery series. that follows Armin Gamache. He's the head detective for the homicide division in Quebec, and he is investigating murders mostly in the small town of Three Pines. And I really do like the series when it's set in Three Pines. The last book I read was not set in Three Pines, and I really did not like it because being in Three Pines gives it this cozy murder mystery style with these really eccentric characters that were lost when we left. However, I've been told that we do return, so I am still going to continue with the series and hope that we stay in Three Pines more than we're out of it. I have 15 books left in the Virgin River series. This obviously is the book series that the TV show on Netflix is based off of. I started to watch the Netflix show first and then went back to the books. The books and the Netflix show are not even slightly the same. I mean, okay, they are slightly the same, but there are a lot of differences, including even who our couples end up with. There are some big differences. The first 2 books really are what the Netflix show is based off of, and then it really changes after the first 2 books. So I really consider them different entities. And I love both. I love the series and I love the books, but they are different. Lastly, we have a cozy mystery series, the Tea Shop Mystery Series. We follow our main protagonist, Theodosia, who owns a tea shop and also is the local sleuth. I have 24 books left in this series. 24 books. So I don't even know if I will ever finish this series because, to be honest, it's not a priority for me to complete this series or read all the books in the series. But it is on my list, so I did want to share it. But like, will this ever be done? Probably not. And we're finished. That is all 46 series that I am currently in the middle of, and hopefully I will finish 28 of them in 2024. Is there a series on here that I have mentioned that I should definitely prioritize because you love it? Let me know down in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.